Shalom, everyone. Let us. Shabbat Shalom. We'd like to welcome all of you to this beautiful Shabbat. I know that our YouTube channel is live, as is templeshalom.com, and I believe momentarily we'll be live on Facebook. We want to welcome all of you to another beautiful Shabbat evening. As we turn in our Siddur, if you have one at home with me, if you'll turn to page 129, we welcome Shabbat with a little bit of music as we say, when I keep Shabbat, God keeps me. It's a sign forever between me and God. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereini. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereini. Oti le'ol me'at beino uveini. Oti le'ol me'at beino uveini. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereini. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereini. Oti le'ol me'at beino uveini. Oti le'ol me'at beino uveini. At the top of page 129, a beautiful love poem that comes to us from Song of Songs, from Shir HaShirim, as we say, my beloved is mine and I am my beloved, with the words of Do Dili. Do Dili Vani Lo Harueh Vashoshani Do Dili Do Dili Vani Lo Harueh Vashoshani Do Dili Mizodola Min Hamidbar Mizodola Min Hamidbar Do Dili Vani Lo Haroeh Vashoshani Do Dili. As we turn in our Siddur to page 120, we come to the lighting of our candles as we bless the light that welcomes in Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. We turn in our Siddur to page 130 as we begin to welcome in Shabbat with our Kabbalat Shabbat, to leave the week behind and bring in a new week with Lechu neranina, the top of page 130. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Naria, naria, letzuri shenu, lekadma fanav v'toda. Naria, naria, letzuri shenu, v'zmirot riyalo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina, ladonai. From Psalm 96, the heavens will be glad, the earth will rejoice, the sea will roar and all that fills all of them. All of God's creation will be grateful and thankful for all of creation. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'takir haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umedo. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umedo. Hashamayim, hashamayim, v'takir haaretz. From Psalm 97, we sing the words that tell us, light is sown for the righteous and radiance for those who are good-hearted people. If we bring goodness, if we bring righteousness into the world, we also will be blessed with our own righteousness and our own lights and our own happiness on this Shabbat. Or Shabbat, Latzadi, U'Yisraelei Simcha. Or Zavua, Latzadi, U'Yisraelei Simcha. Or Zavua, Latzadi, U'Yisraelei Simcha. U'Yisraelei Simcha. Or Zavua, Latzadi, U'Yisraelei Simcha. U'Yisraelei Simcha. Lai, lai, lai. We read from Psalm 99, Adonai enthroned on cheruvim is sovereign. Peoples tremble in the earthquakes. Adonai is great in Zion and exalted above all peoples. They praise your name as great and awesome. God is holy. Mighty ruler who loves justice, it was you who established equity. You who worked righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down to God's footstool. God is holy. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down toward God's holy hill. For Adonai our God is holy. We continue as we sing those words. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho, as we bow down at God's holy mountain. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. השתחוו להר קודשו, רוממו אדוני אלוהים, והשתחוו להר קודשו. From Psalm 29 on page 136 and 137, a psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calf and strips forests bare. While in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. We've made our way through the Psalms of leaving the week behind. And we come now to Lecha Dodi. If you have a Siddur at home, you're looking on page 138 and 139 as we welcome in the Shabbat bride with the idea of setting aside the week and welcoming in the beauty, welcoming in the joy, welcoming in the rest. As we Shabbat vayinafash, as we'll say in Vishamar a little later, as we cease from everything and we refresh our souls. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pnei pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shalom v'zachor v'yikurecha, Shmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad Shemo echad, L'shenu tiferet v'le'ilala. לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונערכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. The third verse. מקדש מלך ימולך, קחו ביצעים מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבת בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך כמלה לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. נערי מעפר כולי, אישי בגיא תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי ביתך לחמי, קרבה על נפשי גלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעורר יברך ומאורי, אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תחמי, בך יחסו עיני עמי, ונבנתה עיר על צילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו נמשסה שוסייך, ורחקו קרוב עלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמשוש חתן וכלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תעריצי, על ידי פן פרצי, ונשבחה ונגיד לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we greet the Shabbat bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Psalm 92, the Psalm of Shabbat, near the bottom of the page, it's the indented paragraph, the words of Tzaddik Katamar, that if we are righteous, we will bloom like a date palm. The date palms, of course, have very deep roots. They provide wonderful fruit. The fruit is protected high up in the tree. And if we can be righteous people in such a way, then we too will be protected and bloom just like the date palm and be great and majestic like the cedars of Lebanon, protected in the courtyards of God's palace, as the words say here. Beautiful melody from the previous century. Sadikatamar yifrach erez bavanu yisgeishituni beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu Yashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlatato. The righteous will bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. We continue as we make our way into our Ma'ariv service with the words of Chatzi Kaddish, page 144, for those of you here in the synagogue and those of you who are following along with us at home, in your seat or at home. Yitkada v'yitkada shmei Rabbah, Velmad yivrachute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala ba'agala, uvizman karit yimeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, Olam olam yamaya yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha, b'bichu, le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiron be'alma, v'yimeru, Amen. Page 146, we rise. We call ourselves to prayer with the words of Baruch Hu. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Give thanks for creation with the words of Ma'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being and skillfully opens the gates, changes the season, brings day from night and night to day. Praised are you, Adonai, the one who brings on the evening. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro מעריב ערבים, בחוכמה פותח שערים, משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, ומשמורותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. לי 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 Adonai Tzivaot Shemo. Oh, lai 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 El Chai v'Kayam Tamidim Lochalim Le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim Lai 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 We've given thanks for Torah. We've given thanks, we gave thanks for creation. Now we give thanks for Torah. To guide us each and every day on our pathway through life, that we bring it into our hearts with love. And God gives it to us with love, so that we might make ourselves better, we might make others better, we might make the world a little better. Ahavat Olam, page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, u'kim u'mishpatim, Al Kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochvenu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki him hayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahen nehegei yomam v'layla nehegei yomam v'layla v'ahavatcha al tasir le'minu le'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo Yisrael. We join together in the words of Shema. Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlektecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'or al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot beinenecha uv'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tizkeruhu v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'yod lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart. Shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt bind them as a sign upon thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gate, and upon thy gate, that we may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God. We continue as we give thanks for our redemption, our freedom from those narrow places. In our world, there are so many who live in those places now. We'll speak of them in just a little bit, but may they have the moment in their lives when they can say, Mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, who is like you, God, who can bring us to freedom, who can deliver us from these horrible places where we are, who can be as great as you, as majestic and splendorous as you, and just like you, do wondrous things in the world. Page 158, Mi chamocha. O God, lie us down in peace. Cause us to rise up again tomorrow to life, and spread over us a shelter of your peace. Protect us from enemy and illness and war, from famine and sorrow and wrongdoing. Deliver us and be gracious and merciful to us. Guard our going and our coming, for chayim and for shalom, for life and for peace. Praise to you, Adonai, who spreads your shelter of peace over us, over all your people Israel, and over all of the world. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Shalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Shalom. Ufros Aleinu, Sukat Shlomecha, Baruch Ata Adonai, Haporei Sukat Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Shalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Shalom. The people of Israel will keep Shabbat. Observing Shabbat throughout the ages is a covenant for all time. God said, it is a sign between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days God created the heavens and the earth. And on the seventh day, Shabbat, Vayinafash, God ceased from all the work and refreshed. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha'Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו שבת, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו שבת, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו שבת, שבת ויהי נפש, ויהי נפש, we rise as we come to the Amidah. We turn to page 164. Ah, na 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 Adonai. Ah, na 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 Sifatai Tiftach. Ah, na 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 Ufiagi Tehiladecha. Ah, na 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 Adonai. Ah, na 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 Sifatai Tiftach. Ah, na 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 Ufiagi Tehilatecha. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים צומח נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל אתה קדוש שמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently Takadash Avodah prayer, it's say on page 174. It's say Adonai Elohim Ve'amecha Yisrael U'tefilatam be'ava tikabel U'tihilratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael קרוב לכל חורף פניל עבודך וחנינו שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון Page 176, Prayer of Thanksgiving. Modim anachnu lach she'ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu Le'olam va'ed Sur chayenu Magin Yishenu Atahu L'dor v'ador Atahu L'dor v'ador Modim anachnu lach she'ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu v'imoteinu le'olam va'ed Sur chayenu magin yishenu Atahu l'dor v'ador Atahu l'dor v'ador Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ucha na'ed l'hodot. Praise for you, Adonai. Your name's goodness, and you're worthy of our thanksgiving. Page 178. A prayer for peace. A prayer for peace for us inside our own souls. A prayer for peace in our community. A prayer for peace in our world. A prayer for peace in Ukraine. Prayer for peace in Jerusalem. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'nimecha livaveh et Amcha Yisrael bring our Amidah to a close. Page 180. Adonai, my rock, my redeemer. As we turn to page 371, we think of those who are in need of healing. We ask for God to bring Refuah Shlema, complete healing, to Yishav Zaza, Carrie Schillinger, Robert Oppenheim, Carrie Susser, Brian Zabel, Sylvia Chuk, Ruvain Ben Sipora, Stephen Sherrow, Chaim Mordechai Ben Shmuel Yissaschar, Irene Lambert, Moshe Ben Avraham, Avram Ben Odul, Avram Ben Meir, Ari Tzvi Ben Menachem Mendel Chana, Ken Pepper, Stanley Sachs, John Sheck, Lee Miller, Steve Volan, Judy Bauman, Aviva Sara Badbela, Wanda Frisky, Calvin Waxman, Ira Sheck, Toby Sulka Bat Bela Rivka, Dr. Seth McKinney. We also ask for healing for all those who suffer from the COVID-19 pandemic. Those here in El Paso County, the current 983 cases, the first time in a long time that it's been under 1,000. Here in the United States, the 25,565,883 who are afflicted. In the land of Israel, the 66,515 current cases, that's a drop of 38% over the last week. And worldwide, the 61,046,938 who are suffering from COVID-19. That also being about a 5% drop. The numbers are dropping and we're grateful. And we hope that all those who still suffer will find healing as soon as they can. For those of you who are with us on YouTube and on Facebook and on TempleShalom.com, if you'd like to include names, you can type them into the chat box, and we'll think of all those who are in need of healing. Of strength, bless the ones before us, help us find the courage, make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yishebera This week, HIAS, originated as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society to help Jews who were immigrants and refugees during the Holocaust. Shorten its name to just those initials, HIAS, HIAS, has declared this week, as it does every year, the first Shabbat of March, as Refugee Shabbat. It doesn't always match up with a particular Torah portion, but it matches up with an idea that is important for all of us. And really, I want to talk about two things that tie into our Torah portion this week of Pikudei. You see, in Parashat Pikudei, the tabernacle, the Mishkan in the desert, is completed. The people finish all of the work and they bring it to Moses. It gets set up and Moses blesses it. It's called the Mishkan, in Hebrew, the dwelling place where God dwells among us. And how do we cause God to dwell among us? Well, it's very simple. By being tzaddikim, by being righteous people. That is how we bring God to dwell among us. Because God dwells bashamayim, up in the heavens, but we can draw God down not just with our prayers, but with our actions. Not just with the keva and kavanah of prayer, the fixed words and the intention of prayer, but the pu'ula, the activity that comes from it. That we are tzaddikim, that we are righteous people, that we strive to be, even though we don't know who they are, one of the Lamed Vavnikim, the 36 truly righteous people in the world. We strive to be them, even though we may not be them. And I want to talk about two things, about refugees and about the women of the wall. We'll start with the women of the wall. For those of you who may not have heard of Women of the Wall, you will now. The Women of the Wall are a group of women who each month go to the Kotel in Jerusalem on Rosh Chodesh, which is today, Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. It's Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, the second Adar in our leap year, the month of Purim. And each month since December of 1988, the Women of the Wall have gathered together to go to the Kotel to pray. And it's been a rough journey for these nearly 33 and a half years. I was actually there December 1988. I was living in Israel at the time, and some of my female friends heard about this event that was happening, and some of us, their male friends, joined them, and we were there in the plaza of the Kotel when a woman, for the first time in modern history that we know of, carried a Torah scroll into the Kotel Plaza and up to the wall, and there was prayer at the wall. A couple of months later, on the fast of Esther, we were there again, trying to help the women bring a Torah to read in the morning, and of course, this got out of hand. You can read about it in news clips that there was tear gas in the plaza. For 34 years, the Women of the Wall have grown and have come to the Kotel. And the Haredi rabbis who run the Kotel as an ultra-Orthodox synagogue and fill it with hatred and not prayer, who fill it with dislike for their fellow Jews and not love for their fellow Jews, called this morning for a huge protest. Because the head of the Reform movement and the head of the conservative movement in America, the head of the Reform movement in Israel, the head of the conservative movement in Israel, a Reform rabbi who's now a member of the Knesset, a member of the Labor Party, the Avodah Party, marched with Torah scrolls toward the Kotel. And when they got to security, they were stopped by the police. And the police said, it's against the law for you to bring a Torah to the Kotel. That's right. The police in Israel told Jewish people and rabbis that they could not bring the Torah to the Kotel because it's against the law to bring a Torah to the Kotel. Also in the Kotel Plaza, because there were these big profile people, the Haredi rabbis had put out for there to be a huge protest. And tens of thousands of Haredi, boys and girls from school who were allowed to skip school today because it was more important to spit on other Jews and throw rocks at other Jews and curse other Jews and give the middle finger to other Jews and blow whistles so loud that the other Jews could not hear themselves pray. They were brought to the Kotel Plaza. They filled the women's section so deeply that no other woman could get in the women's section. They filled the entire Kotel Plaza so that no one could get there. So the police set up barriers in the walkway into the kotel, and the women of the wall had their service shacharit this morning, including a Torah reading, because they don't let them bring Torah there usually, but the police were able to block out the Haredi who tried to steal the Torahs from them, and they read Torah, and they danced with Torah. I watched it last night, our time here in Colorado Springs. I got to see my daughter, who's in Israel, on a semester abroad, standing there, dancing there, singing there, praying there, right at the Torah table with the women of the wall. She carried a Torah in the processional of this great joy. While the Haredim who were there engaged in sinat chinam, baseless hatred. They weren't there with talis, they weren't there with tefillin, they were there with rocks and they were there with whistles to disturb their fellow Jews from praying because it wasn't their brand of Judaism. This is not the way we enter into a mishkan, into a place where God dwells with us. I will tell you this. God dwelled with the women of the wall this morning. God dwelt with my daughter and her classmates. God dwelt with the women of the wall. But God turned God's back on the Haredim who were engaging in sinat chinam. Because God said, you make a disgrace of my Torah. And I will not dwell with you while you engage in sinat chinam, the very reason that the second temple was destroyed. Because they were engaging in hatred and not love. It's the same when we turn our back on refugees. There are now more than 1 million refugees who are making their way to Poland, to Hungary, to other countries in Central Europe to get away from the terror that is being placed upon Ukraine by the Russian army. Young Russian soldiers who have no idea why they are going there. They were told they were going to training camp, and they were then shipped off to the Ukraine to commit atrocities. And we need to open our doors to those refugees. Yes, that means that if refugees come to America, we need to open our doors and not say because the Ukrainians look white, we should let them in, and not let the ones who are coming from our southern border in, or not let them in because they're brown. Not let the ones who are coming from the Middle East or from Africa in because they're black. We should be a country that welcomes in the refugees on this Refugee Shabbat. If we look at the numbers of refugees have shrunk exponentially from bringing in tens of thousands every year to just a few thousand. We know that before the last administration, there were 30 or 40,000 refugees coming into the state of Texas alone every year. The last year, there were fewer than 1,000, even though there were more and more people in need. I'm against building a wall. I'm for bringing in refugees. We were refugees in World War II. And the world turned their backs on us, on the SS St. Louis, etc., every time a train left, every time a boat left, and no one in the world wanted to let us in. We need to let the people in. We need to let the Jews into the kotel to pray no matter which way they want to pray. We need to let the refugees into our country no matter where they came from, so that they can find a place of safety. And they can find a place where they can build their own mishkan, a place where God will dwell among us, and a place where God will dwell among them. On this Rosh Chodesh Adar, bringing in the joy of this month, where we saw the joy in the streets of Jerusalem, and yet we saw the baseless hatred in the streets of Jerusalem, where we see the needs of the refugees, and we see those who help them and call for help for them, but we also see those who turn their back on the refugee. In this time of building the Mishkan, a place where God will dwell among us, we can do that through being tzaddikim, righteous people, who welcome in the Jew to pray among us, no matter their style of prayer, Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, Renewal, Reconstructionist, it doesn't matter. That the holy places in Israel are welcoming for every single Jew. And every border in the world is open for the refugee in need. And we don't turn them away. But just as Abraham did in his open tent in the desert, we bring in the refugee. We give them food. We give them water. And as they journey on, they may stay with us. They may journey on when it's safe, but they'll do so having been taken care of by us, because we are tzaddikim who build a mishkan. We are righteous people who build a place for God to dwell with us and among us. We turn to page 586 in our Siddur, and we rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, עמד מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. We turn our thoughts to those who have died in this time of year and years gone by. In our yard sites this week, we recall the memories of Francis Wenger, Risa Johnson, Joseph Gerber, Abe Bain, Goldie Listener, Matthew Newfield, Norman Leonard, Oren Lugbas Ombauer, Hannah Shamosh, Joe Gordon, Kate Rolnick, Tim Burke, Alta Mae Rosenthal, Maxine Weiner, Simon Maxwell, Philip Friedman, Miriam Kelty, Bobby Engel. We recall the memories of all those who have died in the COVID-19 pandemic. Here in El Paso County, the 1,550 of our community members who have died. In the land of Israel, the 10,264 precious souls who are no longer with us. Here in the United States, the 983,440 who have died from this horrific disease. And worldwide, the 6,009,164 precious souls who are no longer with us. Yehu Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be an eternal blessing. We also remember those who have been killed in the atrocities going on across Ukraine. We pray for them and their families as well. We ask those whose tradition is to stand as we, in the memory of those lost, sanctify God's name, page 598. Kaddish Atom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'alei ma'amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'tadar v'yitaleb v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbichata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimro amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimro amen, oseh shalom b'momav. Kuya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimro amen. Before we bring our service to a close, a few announcements. We want to remind you that you can Go to kingsuper.com, Amazon Smile, that's smile.amazon.com, Box Tops for Education, and Shutterfly, all places where you can make purchases, and it makes money for the temple without you spending an extra dime. We want to say Mazel Tov to Ruth and Ryan Kelty on the bat mitzvah of their daughter Morgan. She'll be reading Torah and giving us a drash tomorrow morning, and we're so excited to celebrate with the Kelty family. Please join us tomorrow morning, either in person or on one of our virtual platforms. Have you been wondering how you can help people from the Ukraine? You should have in your email, and you can find on the Temple Shalom website, that you can donate to the Independent Network of Jewish Federations to help. We need about $16 million just for immediate needs for the Jewish community. Many people don't know this, but Ukraine is the 12th largest Jewish community in the world. There are nearly 200,000 Jews in Ukraine, and they are suffering just like the other millions of people who live in the country. You can help by donating money to the Jewish Federation, through the National Jewish Federation, by going through the UJC, the United Jewish Communities. You have an email. If you're a member, you can go to templeshalom.com to find it there. We have a $25,000 match from an anonymous donor. If we can raise $25,000 through our community, that donor will match every penny, and every penny that's raised will go toward relief for the Jewish communities of the Ukraine, to help get them out, to help support the Hillels, to help support the Jewish day schools, the synagogues, etc. You can do that again online. And when you go, there's a drop-down box that asks for your community. Make sure you click Colorado or Colorado Springs, as it says, and we'll know that you were there. Our active threat training, our countering active threat training has been postponed because of weather. It will now take place on April 24th, so you can check online. If you haven't registered, please do. If you did, your registration has been shifted to April 24th. Please join our 4th and 5th graders as they gather little mishloach manot, some Purim gifts for our four-legged community, for dogs and cats in our community. They're gathering treats for dogs, dog food, dog toys, dog pets, and blankets, etc. Please bring them by Temple Shalom to join them there. Sunday, March 6th, this upcoming Sunday, Nevatim will be at 10 o'clock. If you're getting ready for Purim, which I hope you are, several Purim things going on. First, in the Rabbi's Kitchen, Thursday, March 10th, join me and my wife Lisa in our kitchen, online on Zoom. It's better than anything you're going to find on Food Network. All kinds of great Hamantash and recipes that you'll want to have for Purim. After that, Friday night, March 11th, the very next night, it's Beatles Shabbat. You'll want to be here as we sing every single Friday night prayer to a Beatles tune. If you've never been, you don't know. But if you've been, you know it's one of the most fun Shabbats and a great way to get in the spirit of Purim. On the 13th, March 13th, that Sunday, please join me from 11 to 12, either online or here in the building, for another session of They Never Taught Me That in Hebrew School, for the real story of Purim. You think you know the real story? You might, but you might not. Some interesting perspectives from a few different takes on what the real story of Purim really is. That same evening, March 13th, please join us. There are in-person and virtual options to see the movie Crescendo, an amazing movie of a world-famous conductor conducting an Israelis and Palestinians in an orchestra. There will be a discussion afterwards. Please sign up and join us for that on March 13th. Don't forget, of course, that you want to spring forward with your clock so you don't miss any of these wonderful events. Please do join us for a couple of things in March. Wednesday, March 16th, 4:30 to 7. There's free pizza. There's free candy. There's free happiness for Purim. That's right, our Purim celebration, Wednesday night, March 16th. It's going to go from 4:30 to about 7:30 or so. Please register so we know you're coming, and we have enough pizza for you and enough fun for you as well. We'll be reading the Megillah, costume contest for kids and adults. Come join us. And then finally in the month of March, on Sunday, March 20th, you can join the men's club. David Arnstein, one of our men's club members, has a really wonderful presentation on a guy by the name of Eliezer Ben Yehuda, the guy who is credited as being the leader of the group of people who brought Hebrew back to life, the life giver of modern Hebrew. It's really an amazing story. David's done a lot of research on Eliezer Ben Yehuda. Yes, that street in Jerusalem is named after that guy. You'll want to come and check it out. It's all in your Tuesday newsletter. It's all in your monthly mailer. And it's all on the website at Temple Shalom. And this song is on page 657, a prayer for peace for us, for all of those who were not so friendly to each other, shall we say, in Jerusalem today, and for all of those who are suffering in the Ukraine. Od yavo shalom aleinu, peace will still come for us. Salam, peace, aleinu val kol ha'olam, for us and for all the world. We sing together. Od yavo shalom aleinu. I'm going to change our key. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al Shabbat Shalom, everyone. May it be a beautiful Shabbat for us. And may the spirit of the Shabbat bring the light of Shabbat to the world. And may that light bring peace to us, to all of our community, to Israel, to Ukraine, and all the world. Shabbat Shalom.